were thinking of different topics. I know everybody sees 5 essential flies, how to fish them. I thought I'd put a different spin on it. Maybe I use the term flies loosely. You tell me, but we'll go there. So, first one, if you couldn't guess it, is a pheasant tail. And I'm just really going to talk about the way I think about it. I think people sometimes get confused. Like the way I think about it is I try to imitate a mayfly or a midge. Pheasant tail sticks in my head, and I think it's equally good on still water as it is in rivers. And I think if you had to choose one fly to catch a trout or save your life, we'd probably all choose a pheasant tail. But I'm going to show you some variations of a pheasant tail that some of you may have not seen, and then as we talked about how to fish them or how I would fish them anyway. So here's some of my favorite pheasant tails, not the specific pattern, but I'm going to talk through the design and how they're used. So a couple things when it comes to a pheasant tail too, there's two different ways to tie it. You see all these ones have like a ribbing through it. That's because of a durability thing. I think if you've seen my videos as well, I'll spin the pheasant tail onto the thread and wrap it around the body with a little bit of glue. I found that's the most durable. So choose your favorite method. I don't rib any of my pheasant tails anymore because it seems like a lot of work and it's an extra material, but no problem doing this. So the top, I'm going to go through the still water side, which is the top row. So anybody guess what this one? You guys see my cursor if I do that? A muskins. So a muskins, and this one's a cruncher. And those are two of, some people would argue, two of the best still water flies absolutely in the UK. Whether you're a pleasure angler or a competitive angler, they're absolutely deadly. And then the other one is a cove pheasant tail. So Ian James loved the cove pheasant tail. You saw it doesn't have a tail, kind of bends around here. So it's named after a guy named Arthur Cove, one of the greatest still water anglers of all time. Old guy, I think long dead, but he was, in the UK, he's a legend. They still to this day is one of their top midge patterns. So when everything's pheasant tail, they think of the original one kind of down, the original one that was tied. If you need to imitate a midge in any size, a cove here, river or lake, this one over here, you can see my cursor, right, when I'm doing this? So this one here, absolutely deadly. So, and again, my mentor, Ian James, he loved this one too. If you tie it in black, you get the same version of a zebra midge or anything like that. This is what, if you're trying to fish it in a lake, it's on a long leader, up to 15 feet. You just fish it dead slow. The key is to just let it kind of come back to you slowly, slow hand twist. Absolutely, still one of the best patterns ever. A cruncher is much more of kind of a pulling person's midge. So if you need a general purpose lake nymph, variety of sizes from a midge to a mayfly, it's a cruncher. A cruncher is absolutely deadly. You'll look online if you look up the term cruncher, you'll see about 1,000 variations. One of the UV collar, one of the Nemo cruncher. You'll see blah 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 blah. But really, yeah, they're putting hackle in front of a pheasant tail. But that fly is one of the top, to this day, is still one of the top patterns from everybody in the UK. And people just don't fish them that much over here. And again, you can pull it, you can fish it slow, you can swing it like a wet fly in a river, do whatever you want with a cruncher. And then this fly, which is a muskins, which some might say is just a straightened out cove. Sure, talk to anybody in the UK. This one, they got a little bit of UV. That pattern too will just absolutely crush fish that are feeding naturally. So a lot of people, there's lots of variations of, epoxy buzzers and all this kind of stuff. This kind of old school pheasant tail is just unbelievable. And if I move my cursor over here, and then if you're not familiar with boobies, as a joke there, like, wow. Okay, we'll just say, if the boobies when it comes to flies, so putting eyes in front of it, it's called a cruncher booby. So this can be fished in the top, very much like an emerger on a lake. You can pop it on the surface and then fish it. What's called a washing line is you put this on called the point. So if I have a long leader, this is my first fly and two small flies, and I just cast that out and just let it fall through the layers. This will hold it up like a washing line and just let it take that and take it to the lakes above weed beds, anywhere. So you have rainbow trout feed horizontally. where browns feed vertically. Rainbows are constantly looking. So if you get that right level, and the key with a washing line is to just slowly go through the layers. So, but you're trying to put 3 flies at the same layer. A cruncher booby still is one of my favorite patterns to ever do that. It's very natural. It looks like a really natural fly falling through. And if you put a couple pheasant tails in front of it, you can have just a deadly buzzer presentation. So don't, as the kids would say, don't sleep on the pheasant tail when it comes to lakes. I think people always think river. So that lineup right there, still, these have been around for forever, just not as popular in Canada. So that's my first, from an essential pattern, multiple variations of a pheasant tail for the lakes. And interrupt me anytime. And then the other one is when it comes to rivers. I think we all know a beadhead pheasant tail. There's kind of the original version over here. Pause on that one for a second, but I like a beadhead, whether it's a jig hook or not, is deadly. I would do natural versions, and these are called Frenchies. They put little hot spots behind it, so you can get a lot out of a simple pheasant tail pattern with or without a collar, without or without a hot spot. Is the best river fly probably ever created. You're crazy not to fish them if you're not right now. And fish dead drift is just absolutely deadly. The original one like this without weight, I really like to fish that one as an emerger. And so you just dust up the old, if you don't know the kind of the old way of tying pheasant tail, there's those pheasant tail flies you pull through and pull the wing over, and they kind of splay out to the sides. Couple things: when you fish it as a nymph, it'll wobble. But what's really cool about that one, in my opinion, is fish are taking mayfly kind of in the surface, right in the film. Don't forget about, like, just take your dust or gink or whatever and just gink up these feathers and a bit on the top, and it'll sit right in the film, and it's just deadly. You can get away with a spinner as well with one of these. So, like, because you got the sides splayed out, you could call it a cripple, call it whatever you want. But a fish are feeding in the film, it's absolutely deadly. You can float. They float in there pretty good, and if you tie them on a dry fly hook, they'll sit right in the film. This is not a pheasant tail. For those paying attention, that is a biot and some stupid tail the person put on the end here. But this, I may pause. This may be the single greatest dry fly that exists in the world. You're going to yell at me about an Adams. You can yell at me about an El Caracatus. You can yell at me about a bunch of stuff. It's called a plume tip. It was invented by a guy named Jeremy Lucas. He's also British. He's a big very technical river angler over there. His original one was tied with heron. So if you want to go like get yourself in trouble with the wildlife, go get some heron Earl. But they substituted in pheasant tail. So I chose this picture for a couple of reasons. So if you got to have this dry fly in your box if you fish trout. Unacceptable if you don't. The way you tie it is, it's just that we're talking about CDC. It's the tips of about 2 or 3 feathers. So the plume tip. The secret of this fly is the angle, and this is why I took this picture. Is a lot of people tie them like a shuttlecock, and it comes straight out here, so the fly would sit vertically. You want that 45-degree angle. So the way you tie this fly is you tie in your CDC first, 2 or 3, tie it down here, come back down here, tie in your pheasant tail, no tail. I don't know what's going on here. Just wrap it up here, snip it, take a little bit of leftover CDC, dub it, and then bring your thread to the front and use enough thread wraps to get that nice angle. That fly, I would tie it from a 6. Yeah, you could get maybe a 14 at the biggest, 14 down to a 20 or 22. Jeremy Lucas will use this for kind of these are your sippers. This is your flat pools. It's not a fast water pattern at all, but your tail outs, anytime there's a slick, anytime you see a fish with those real subtle rise where they're eating a midge, or they're eating something, they don't have to work hard for it. It'll literally almost, like, all he did and famously is he'll start at a 16. Nope. Go to an 18. Nope. 20. One of them will catch it. He only fishes these in the most technical flat water. Like, if you were going to really technical flat water, this is the fly you want. And you can, like, people mess around with it with other stuff. Just tie it with a pheasant tail. It's absolutely deadly. They're just the key when you're fishing in this fly is you got to stay way back, long leaders. Really, it's very delicate presentation. So we're not doing a dry fly discussion, but this is where if you're fishing Spanish techniques or at least fine and far off, this is your flat water. Gee, those I can't catch a trout and I go through the plume tip, I'm just going home. But you won't. They'll eat it. They just keep scaling it down. That makes sense? The plume tip, Jeremy Lucas. And then, yeah, this is a pheasant. This is another jig fly. It's got a collar CDC. So we were talking about getting some crappy CDC. There's another way the French tie it a lot is with just hare's ear, like really or it's it fox or so, anything that's like kind of a barred or like your hare's ear would be perfect behind it. You want a collar of it. And so it's a lot different than this fly over here in the fact that this one's very streamlined. This one will sink very, very fast. This one catches a lot more water. And when we're fishing the World Championship at France, our French guide, who's three-time French champion, he was getting mad at us for fishing this one. We thought he was mad at us because we're fishing a pheasant tail. But he said, and it was very interesting, when you're into the kind of shallowy, riffly water, always put a collared, like a hackled version of it because it rolls over the rocks and it doesn't hang up. And it was crazy. Same fly. This one was hanging up every time. Switch to this and it just drifted over those rocks. That little bit of hackle made all the difference. So we also thought they're putting the hackle in for movement. They really use the hackle when you want to keep a fly just a little bit off the bottom. So it's not, this is more in your shallow riffles, your water where you can see the bottom. These are better in deeper water. So there's the pheasant tail, number one. You could live off this little and do pretty good. So any questions on what I got? 8 variations of a pheasant tail. They're all tied with the one or two materials. And this I got to leave you. Like if you fish flat water, have plume tips all day. Don't get hung up on the hair and hurl. Just pheasant tail, angle it. The other one you can do is a thread body too, but it's a deadly pattern. It's only good for flattish water though. It's a real technical. Number 2, I thought it was adorable. Get it? Hare's ear. No, nobody on the hare's ear. Most people look at that as cute. We look at it as, oh, it's pretty barred. Not bad. Pretty good hackle. Like, you get pretty good dubbing out of that guy. Yeah. So hare's ear, number 2, kind of your fun, the ones you guys all know. But just for some people, I always think of it as if they're on caddis, I go hare's ear. Like in my mind, I'm not saying it's right. Mayfly midges, that's my pheasant. I get a lot of people ask me, how do you choose between 2 of the greatest flies of all time? That's how I do it. They're on scuds, sow bugs, caddis. I'm throwing a hare's ear. That's why if you're fishing 2 flies, a hare's ear and a pheasant tail, like, come on, we got a party. The hare's ear also performs very well. It's almost like there's trout in rivers and lakes. So it does really, really well. And what I like about hare's ear, it's really easy to tie. It's durable. It's easy peasy. Once you learn how to dub, it's pretty good. So here's a couple just things you may or may not know. So those who spend time in Pennsylvania, the old Walt's worm, deadly, my kind of fly, just dubbed on a hook, bead or no bead, no problem. Technical trout waters, it does amazing. It looks like everything I said, a caddis, but where the variation to me in this pattern comes from the bead color. So don't be afraid to play with bead colors. Gold for me when it's sunny. A pink, like that soft pink bead is kind of a general all-purpose kind of subtle. You have your coppers, your blacks. You don't have to go overboard, but have a couple. There's a big difference with the kind of glint you get off it. Those who don't know this fly, most people do. There's one called the sexy waltz where they put a pearl ribbing through it. If you want to party fly, as they would say in the US in Europe, but that just dubbed on a hook is deadly. And I didn't put a picture of a fly I love called the no-see-um that Ian James and I love fishing, which was we took this and we shrunk it to just behind the bead. So all you have is a bead and dubbing and a hook. And if you get also for steelhead, they get technical, you can catch them. And I kid you not, I had a client on the big head years ago. I said, you fishing behind pinners, just throw like a nothing little no-see-um on. And he was cleaning up behind him in one of those clear days because they'd seen enough roe to last him a long. I know there's I'm going to use some it's called shit fly. So I'll tell you a story about the shit fly. So
I had to know which one you're pointing to.
this is the shit fly, right? So interesting. So David Arkai, I think Marco, you just spent time, and then he's one of the top anglers in the world, like multiple world champion. He's really good. So he was our coach in Ireland, and we were practicing on lakes, and there were these we've all seen them, and if you've seen them in lakes, they're cruising around, and they're like for some reason damn near impossible to catch, and then they start rising to nothing, and you're like, I should have plume tipped him, but I didn't. So nobody could catch one, and he's like, I can catch because his English was not good. I'm like, we're like, you can catch that? And he's like, yep. And what they found was this is just hare's ear dubbed on a hook, but spiky. And if you really want to be cute, you can mix in a little bit of CDC. And then there's a guy named Tom Jarman who's the top rod in Australia. He was fishing with a French team, and then he's coming back raving around this fly. So it's a really technical fly, rivers or lakes, but it's flat water. Doesn't It's an emerger kind of thing. But man, you put that powder on this thing and just float it in the film, various sizes, like from an 18 up to a 14. They just eat it. I think there's just something really natural about how it sits in the film. There's nothing to it. To quote Pat Weiss out of Pennsylvania, there's nothing for it to refuse. That simple fly, just again, it doesn't float super well. It's got to be flat. Don't forget about this one. And there's some people who will not be happy I'm releasing that. That is a really good back pocket. Like I can, if in doubt, in case of emergency, break glass, this would be behind it, along with that plume tip for technical trout.
Ian, quick question.
Yeah.
That fly seems to have kind of a bluey kind of color, which seems different than the other flies here. Can you comment on that?
I have no idea. I just took a picture of one. I think it's like that to me is what it looks like when I put white powder on it. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Like to quote them, it's the shit fly. It's just you just want a bushy fly, brush it out with not just guard hairs but the underfur and a little bit of CDC if you want to be cute. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. That's just the dubbing they used.
And sorry,
And
what is
sorry,
the material for the dubbing if you're not using CDC again?
just hairs here, just all hairs here.
Oh, simple fly.
Simple fly, but just use if you're plucking it yourself, just have that mix of under fur and like don't do it all guard hairs. It's too bushy. Like you need it bushy, but with softness to it when you brush it out, just so it'll hold the powder. I throw like a little pinch of CDC, like for I don't know why. That's not necessary. Sure. In the river, I'm more likely to throw the plume tip first because it's the same kind. They're in the same category, like the sipping pain in the ass. I don't know how to catch it, trout. That's the only two flies I'll try. Maybe in a tiny little left fly, but if these two won't catch it, there's something wrong. So like they'll eat one of those two, as proven by the two best teams, Spain and France. This is one of their secret little flies. 100% for difficult trout. Easy, simple, but you got to have good powder. Like it's not, don't gink it, it'll sink. Powder, the Bogota special, and then I'm not doing this. I'm kind of going over here. The other one, I do one with, I just, instead of wrapping it down the hook, I just put green kind of blob fritz or some type of green fritz out of the end. This, like, case caddises can be really complex. My old mentor Ian James loved case caddises. He made them, I think, really complex.
My
Zombie,
favorite was the model train
yeah,
sand.
like that one with the yeah. So zombie Ian James is gonna go kind of attack me for like that's too much work. Just do a waltz worm and stick a green ass on it. That is a deadly fly. They see case, like, don't overthink a case caddis, and you can do it various sizes. The other one you can put lead underneath it, but I like this with a dull bead. I don't care what the green is. I do sometimes fritz at the back, sometimes I wrap it, whatever. It looks like a case caddis. It's super easy, and it's you fish it like a total dead drift. Like case caddises don't emerge, they don't swing up. I mean, the fish aren't going to be that picky about it anyways, but it's a great dead drift fly. It's a great low light fly with that green butt. I love it when the light's a little low, put it on. Absolutely killer. And then another version, this is like the fly for those who aren't in the know. It's called a thread nymph. For those who like, this is about one of about 100 versions from the Czechs. It's like the cool in fly for the last 10, 15 years that every competition guy used to keep quiet. Some guys use CDC for the tail of the collar, but the original one is partridge. You dub it with and you dub it quite bushy with hare's ear. You wrap it with either glow like a bright orange, glow bright 5 or 4, or a hot pink. So there's a hot pink or a hot orange rib, and then you wrap it again with partridge, and then throw a little bit of ice dub in the front. That fly, you can swing it, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. That fly is absolutely deadly. I have no idea why. I don't know if it's the glow from the orange. You take the orange thread off, not as good. It's just like a normal hare's ear. That's a variation I had to put in here. It's a wicked fly for swinging too because of the hackles. And it rolls over the boulders, kind of like that other one. It's a good fly to kind of fish in rocky water. Really, really, really good. And then another kind of a variation of it down here, kind of dialed down, where you see this is a Spanish version of it. They kind of put a hot collar on it, but it's the same kind of idea. But this one is just absolutely like, if you look up Red Nymph, Lubos Rocha, I think, is selling them on Fulling Mill now. But this is a great fly. And there's about 100 different versions of it. Just choose one, and you got to have it in your collection, or in my opinion. And then the last two is dry flies. So the only 3 dry flies I fish are really maybe a couple more, but a plume tip in slow water. A hare's ear dry fly was new to me, to be honest. This came from the Spanish as well. That's a hare's ear tail, hare's ear body. Just stick a CDC wing. You don't like a CDC wing, put a Comparadun. I don't care, whatever. But the hare's ear dry fly, it was John Garrick's favorite fly. So, like, he's about 1,000 and caught trout all over the world. I should have paid more attention when in his book he said it was one of his favorite flies. It is the only like mayfly you need, almost. Like, so don't forget about a hare's ear and a mayfly, and then same version in a caddis. So this is a fancy one where it's we've put a little bit. It's just an F fly with a little bit oomph. So we've just hackled the front end, but there's hare's ear under there too. So same body, just different caddis wing, vertical wing, dry flies done. So people get really worked up about dry flies. They'll eat a hare's ear like 95% of the time. Like, I don't care if they're on Hendricksons or sulfurs or whatever's. Just have a hare's ear and throw it out. It's all the one you need. Now, the orange, it's a glow bright that you put on the top of the fly. So you just, when you're done tying the fly, you kind of take a couple and you tie it and pull it back and then snip it so you can see the dry fly. It's a cider. Yeah. So the value of CDC is kind of the presentation of it. I would say there's 2 things: is a high quality powder for sure. So find that not all powders created equal. I love making like cocaine jokes with that stuff, so I'll try not to. But there's a couple like the Archive stuff from Smart Angling. The Spanish guy, he takes it very seriously. His is really good. Loon is pretty good. Get a high quality powder, because you should be able to take take it, dunk it in the water, and you just dip your finger in, and you just rub it on the top really fast. So you just dunk it and just kind of rub all the. So it's not, the maintenance gets better, but it is around for sure. So if I'm catching a high volume of fish, I'll have that exact same fly with a deer hair or something like that. So like Moro tie is a fly I love that's a deer hair fly. Like, if I'm catching a lot of fish, like to that frequency, I'll just try it now. If I stop catching, no. And the other one, snowshoe hair. It's more durable. It floats. Like, essentially, like the way I think of it, like the fly did not have it as a usual. People forget about the usual. Usual is a damn good fly. It's really good. So that's just a Spanish version of a usual. Like, you make that a snowshoe body, a snowshoe here and a snowshoe up here. That's what I would swap in if you want. Like, if I was catching a high volume, snowshoes are gonna do the same thing, and I won't be getting pissed off all the time. So I find CDC is a good medium catch rate of flies, versus if you're just pounding fish, I take it off, because you're right, the maintenance is too high. But the maintenance is take the fly, dip it to get the fish crap off. You don't need to do this elastic band thing. See people do. Don't do any of that. Just get a really high quality power, not with a brush. Put your pinky in only, because your hands will get too dry, and just rub that wing. And a good quality CDC will pop up pretty fast. So that's how long it takes. Dunk, maybe one more, click, and you're back out. So it's not that bad, but it is annoying after a bunch of fishing. All right, and number 3, we talk a lot about Spain, the Perdigon, right? So these have been really like the hot ticket in town, but they really do offer you something the other ones don't. And so it was invented in Spain, and you know that Marco and Asturias, it was invented on the Polonia. It was called Perdigon in Spanish for pellet. It was really invented to get small flies down in faster water. And what's interesting, and it was pointed out to me by a Spanish guy, is it actually drifts slower than a pheasant tail or a hare's ear. So it does, because it doesn't have any water resistance. It goes down really fast, and it will drift a little bit slower. But the benefit of it is it drops fast. The downside is it drops fast. And yeah, it's an epoxy buzzer with a bead. Ian James was tying epoxy flies for forever. This is not a new concept, but one thing that really does differentiate a Perdigon is this: whether you use black paint or a marker or whatever, this wing case in many scenarios, I do think they trigger in on the wing case. So I wasn't sold on the wing case thing. It does make a difference on these, and they're hugely durable. They're going to last as long as they can until you lose it. There's a couple of good ones. This one, there's one called a Culi Roja, which is Spanish for red ass, and this one's called a Fangarista, which it's just a black body with either red holographic or an orange butt or a red butt. Yep, it looks like a red tag. It's Perdigon red tag. That fly with a silver bead and a copper bead, I would have very limited confidence hitting a river without it. It'll work at any time there's any kind of tannic colored water. It's absolutely deadly. This fly over here is called a Gasolina. It's very popular right now. It's been around. It looks like there's a bunch of different ways to tie it. There's lots of videos on it. The original one is Hens 233 wrapped with Hens 45, but you can buy little strips and a bunch of stuff. The key being, you only need a copper bead on a Gasolina. That is a brown trout fly. It's a brown trout catching machine. I don't know if it's the glint on it or whatever the hell. It was called Gasolina because it looks like fuel or gasoline in a puddle, that kind of coppery green. It's absolutely deadly. So pick your favorite Perdigons, but just have one that's kind of light, for your simple rule is match the color of the bottom. So if you go to a river and there's really light like boulders that are light, freestone, something like that, grab a light colored Perdigon. So have a couple light ones. There's about 10 billion different patterns you can choose from. For sure, have a Gasolina and a Culi Roja, and then have your variations of it. They sink really, really fast. You can fish them really, really small, and you'll use lighter beads. The only thing is don't overweight these flies. They sink really, really fast. So a lot of 2.5 mil beads, some 2.3, like anything over a 3 mil bead, the thing is a bomb. So really scale back your weights because they sink really, really fast. They're much better for fast water. I like Hanek 230 Stillwater hooks. That's my favorite. I don't like them in jig hooks. You notice these aren't tied in jig hooks. I like a bigger gate here. You can tie them if you wanted to on jigs, but I like that 230 hook. And they're also great for dry dropper. So they're one of the best flies for dry dropper. You fish really, really light, like 2.5 mil, 2.3 mil, little 18s, little whatever. If you put it under a dry fly, they sink quickly, but you can do really, really lightweight. So you can get into those little pockets fast with these things. So if you're in pocket water, a dry dropper with a little Perdigon underneath it is absolutely deadly. The number one mistake is everybody overweights their Perdigons. These don't have any hackle. These things are bullets, man. They're pellets, light with the Perdigon. Okay, so jig streamer. I know we were talking all the articulated, all that Kelly Gallup stuff, all that good stuff. Wicked. Not saying it's just, is it essential? No, it's damn fun. Good for maybe essential for big trout. This is not that. This is a jig streamer, and this is one I'm like obsessed with on the motion of it. So it works in still waters and rivers for sure, but just have one that's a bait fish, one's a sculpin, one's a crayfish, and a couple of my favorites or versions of them. And you have George Daniel on. He calls this a Crelex minnow. I call it a sparkler because I think the sparkler was invented first. But this is probably one of the best river streamers I've used. I mean, the sparkler's been around for forever, but you'll notice really, really big beads. So this is like the inverse of the Perdigon. I go 4 mil heavy, brutally heavy. I want it to really sink fast, and that's where, because when I'm fishing that actively, I really want that jigging motion. Like I want it to just go. And yeah, walleye guys figured it out about 100 years ago, fishing like marabou jigs. But that way it moves, so you can fish it Euro or not, I don't care. So just the key being the fast strips with this one, little fast strips like this, it will jig. Casting across and fishing 45. The best we found is 45 degrees, kind of coming back at you. It's almost like it's darting away from you. You can just manipulate very aggressively with the fly rod or with your hand, and you can really do no wrong. But that heavy bead, and with it being a jig, it doesn't hang up. It's just absolutely deadly. Fish will come from like flying out for that thing, bass, whatever. It really is the motion. But that particular pattern, you can, if you have other patterns, put a big bead on it that you like. But that jig motion is absolutely something to it, but it works the best with heavy weight. The other trick you can do is it allows you to fish above a fish if you have to, like maybe it's under a tree or something. You can hold in the current and just pulse your rod, and just let it drop, and that it'll just go. And so I really want, you see how these ones have like almost like a 90-degree angle. So look for when you're fixing your jig hooks or whatever, and that's the one time I want that aggressive angle there, because it gets more jig action. I'm not doing Will Smith getting jiggy with it. I refuse to make that joke, but it goes this way. That will get more jig action. Then pick your favorite sculpin. There's a million of them, but a jig sculpin. I mean, fish love sculpins. We all know that. What I think it mimics the behavior of a sculpin perfectly, in the fact that it's nose down. This is not one I'm going to fish erratically. I don't care, Euro rod, regular rod, whatever. You're going to more high stick this one. I do it with a lot of clients on their regular rods. And what I take is that you can get a little bit of wax or those little paint markers, and you just make a little mark above where your leader will go, so it's above the water, and you can just kind of high stick it all the way through and give it the odd little jig. What I like is it's going to be right on the bottom. When you jig it up, it's just like a sculpin going right back down. And man, do we thump big browns on that. It's deadly on the credit for sure as well. But I am the grand. But so that's this, the way you fish in this one is just little pulsing jigs upstream, letting it drift at and letting it just do its sculpin thing at the bottom. And then you got to have an essential fly as a woolly bugger version. This one I like with rubber legs. That's a crayfish to me. So I'll fish this one differently a little bit, and then I'll go more across and let it swing around. So this is your classic swing with the odd little twitch. So I just twitch it as it goes around, but I don't retrieve. So a lot of people want to retrieve it. Give it a pulse. Like so, if that's the line, I'm going to pulse and let go, pulse and let go. So I was just going across. It's going poof, boom, like that, like a crayfish would kind of move up in the water. So that's called that pulse retrieve. With take your favorite crayfish pattern, stick it on a jig hook. It gets right down. When I pulse it, it kicks. When I pulse it, it kicks. So that it's really the fly design. I don't care what you stick on. Pick your favorite patterns, but you got to have a couple bait fish. You got to have a sculpin. You got to have a crayfish. Next. Oh my God, I can't believe we put a mob fly. What kind of person? Mob fly. I told you everybody's going to leave. Geez. I say shit fly and he pays attention. I show mob fly and he leaves. It's considered a junk fly, Moro, but we will outfish many flies in many situations, killer in still water and moving water. The key is its unique presentation. So we got to get over the mop. Don't be mop haters. You only need two, green and white, or off. This is the holy grail if you can find this color, the cream mop. And a bunch of them here. Couple things. You only need two colors. Cream if you can find it. Good luck. If you go to Canadian Tire, it's impossible to find. And there's white, but cream color, green, you can buy that at the dollar store. I think we've all heard about mop flies. The only thing I would do is make sure when you're tying it, if you look up Devin Olson, the way he ties it, I like the way he ties it. He puts a thread base, he puts a glue on top, and then he puts the mop on top and wraps the thread around it. It's just more durable. You can dub it two different ways. Hare's ear I like exactly like this. These aren't my ties, but they're close enough. I like hare's ear on this one, black rib on this one. The big difference with a mop fly, it's really good for fast, deep water. It's really good in the wind. They would be the one I would put on when I said I couldn't anchor. So back to that fast water with an indicator. The indicator will not be able to. It will slow down the indicator. Once it gets down to the depth, what's interesting about a mop fly, that sucker holds. And so it anchors down there. So it is your anchor fly on windy days. It will outfish flies because it's so slow of a drift and that movement. We can hate it all we want. It'll you're crazy not to go through a pool with a mop fly at a time. There are times it just will outfish, and I've seen big browns be like 5 feet for it, and wild ones, clear. Like we were fishing in Quebec, and Evo, who's my buddy on Team Canada, he's telling me all these crazy wild browns, so we couldn't catch them. We're practicing. It was Morrow. We were practicing up in for that competition. We put on a chartreuse mop, and just like all of a sudden they came from like the bank. I don't know where they came from. They were just flying all over the place. Those
Power
two,
bait.
yeah, they're just really, really good. So this one you could argue does look like a crane fly larva. Makes you sleep better at night. Sure, it does. You could say this is a green weenie for all those technical Pennsylvania people. They just work, but the key is it fishes different. It's not. Don't strip it. Don't do anything with it. Do that. If you're fishing a still water, put it under an indicator and tell me it doesn't crush. You can't. It's unbelievable. It works for steelhead, and then also there's unweighted. I couldn't find an image of an unweighted one, so the unweighted one is just tie it without a bead. So unweighted ones are only for still water, but they just kind of slow sink, and you kind of strip them back in. They move around. They're durable as hell. I had one client who set a record. Is Marco on the line? He'll know the person at the Franklin Club. He caught over 100 on the same fly fish. So he was taking me pictures. He did a season with one line. He kept sending, and then he lost the fly in the woods. So that Gerard caught over 100 on one mop fly.
I heard.
Yeah. Oops. I'm jumping ahead. So just like I know I saved the mop to the end for the groaners, but if you don't fish mops, I think give it a try. You do want a relatively heavy bead to get them down, but they do hold down there and they don't hang up. So I really like on big bouldery rivers that are deep and you're snagging and it's annoying. It's really my big water. I need to get down, hold a fly, and then put a small nymph above it, or just fish the mop fly. But it'll get a small nymph and hold it down there. Just slows the drift and just rolls down there. It is a different presentation, noticeably different. So much that I put it to me as an essential fly because I would now have limited confidence fishing in a lot of situations on a month. So that was my 5 essential flies. A little surprised at the end, but I did stop and go, yeah, one more. I said 5. It's an easy one. It's not going to surprise anybody. But maybe I'll ask, before I do that, what would be your essential last fly?
It's stonefly. Pat's rubbing it.
Oh, stonefly. Good one.
Deer hair caddis.
Deer hair caddis.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go to the breakfast table. Eggs, guys, you gotta have eggs. How do you forget about the huevos? Crazy not to have eggs. So all year round too, not just for steelhead fishing. Don't forget about it. They're genetically programmed to eat eggs. They eat eggs all the time. So, eggs with no weight. You can go with all different. You can play with
slush jelly from F&F. You can go ecstasy. You can do whatever the hell you want for egg patterns, but an unweighted egg can be deadly. Little tip, you can fish it as a dry fly. Just so you know.
I bet he was doing that for goldfish this year. Caught goldfish fishing eggs like dry flies.
They work really, really good. You can put little booby eyes on them and fish them just under the surface, and they will eat them like crazy. You can put a bead in front of it. You can do whatever you want. You hang them on their indicator in a still water, they'll crush it. You've steelhead seem to like them quite a bit. But you know, you can fish just, I think everybody goes steel, like we all have confidence in eggs from steelhead fishing, but we forget that you can just put an egg through at any time and a lot of fish will just eat it for sure. They just, oh, and they know what it is. Oh, it's an egg. Oh, but it's like July. Oh, you know. So it's to me it was the last essential fly. Those are all good ones, but I forgot like the stone fly, stuff like that. But for me, egg flies, there's about, we'd be here all day talking about different types of variations of egg flies, but that would be my, it didn't make the top 5, but it was right behind it.